Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready for more propaganda? Well, you're in the wrong place at the right time. Colombo Chronicles is for critical thinkers. Let's welcome the consumer advocate for justice. Here's the Rose Colombo.
Hi, everyone. It's the Rose Colombo, right here for you every Wednesday, God willing. And that's noon to 1 p.m. on the beautiful West Coast. It used to be more beautiful, called the Golden State, but we're kind of turning into the Silver State and moving on down. But we're going to change that. We're going to make it a better state. It was number one, along with the Big Apple in New York. That was number two, leading the country. So we're going to make all of this turn around, because what we're going to do is we're going to bring more positivity into our country. We can't do it around the world. We can be examples for the world. How does that sound to you? Because we are the American people. And, of course, we love the legal, naturalized Americans, because most of our grandparents or great-grandparents are and so forth. We're legal, natural born, and legal naturalized Americans. And so when our framers finally established the United States Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, they risked their lives for us so we could be free and liberated and be creative and use our minds and our thoughts and our intelligence to develop a beautiful, free, liberated country with the Bill of Rights. And now we have the Bill of almost no rights. And so we need to change all of this for the better by having positive thoughts and positive, not just the thoughts, but take positive steps to make it a better world for us, so we can be examples to the rest of the world, and so that they can also have hope and for freedom and liberty and rights if they are under a tyrannical, religious or communist or socialist agenda in their countries. So on that note, I'm going to take a break, and then we're going to enter into the wonderful world of authors and experts with our very special guest, the dynamic Joyce Alexander Black, M.A. So don't touch that dial, because I have a very important message for you. This is not just a book. It is a message for the world.
Obamasaurus, the new book by Rose M. Colombo, is an updated version of a political satire that reflects the political roadmap of today's world. Written with an Orwellian twist. Will humanity survive or suffer depopulation or extinction? Obamasaurus by Rose M. Colombo. Available at Amazon.com.
The Justice Club is back on Colombo Chronicles live podcast. Join Rose Colombo at noon and find out what tips she will provide in a world of little justice.
Howdy, folks. Just stopped in by my favorite restaurant, the Horseshoe Cafe. I highly recommend the home-cooked hot meals and piping hot coffee. In fact, it reminds me of my mom's home cooking when I was growing up. The customer service is excellent. Be sure to save room for the world's best desserts. Make sure you try a slice of fresh homemade pie. The Horseshoe Cafe is located at 154 East 4th Street in the heart of Benson, Arizona. The Horseshoe Cafe is right outside of Tombstone, Sierra Vista, and Tucson. Sometimes Patty and Mike stop by to welcome you. The staff at the Horseshoe Cafe looks forward to seeing you. Stop by to eat or relax. Cool down in the desert with a cold beer or your favorite cocktail. That's the Horseshoe Cafe. Oh, and don't tell anyone I told you, but some people think it's haunted. One thing is for sure. Be sure to bring your appetite.
Colombo Chronicles Live. Colombo is on their trail. Listen up at Colombo Chronicles Live.
Hey, everyone, this is the Rose Colombo, the advocate for justice, the crusader for justice. But there is very little justice in the world today, but you can read my wonderful books that are mostly have to do with justice, like Fight Back Legal Abuse, and Fight Back Legal Abuse 2 will be coming around October 2023. It's a self-help book for those who are victims of legal abuse or injustices or want to learn more about legal abuse and injustices and how to avoid the pitfalls. And it's always good to prepare. You never know when injustices are going to come knocking on your back door unexpectedly. And then, of course, we have Is America Under Martial Law? Well, is it? If not, how are they getting away with unsecured borders and illegal migration of about 40 million illegals unidentified in our country? And like President Trump said, who is a civilian now under investigation, which is crazy in my opinion, all these presidents and vice presidents being investigated, and we don't have time to worry about the economy anymore or the secure borders because everybody's investigating everybody. So, and nothing ever gets done anyway. But the most important thing is those secure borders, identification of everyone in our country, because you know what? They identify us. They scrutinize us. They spy on us. They want our fingerprints. They want our iris scan. They want our facial scan. They want to naked x-ray us at the airports, which is unhealthy and can cause cancer and cataracts and stunt the growth of little children, aging, and even death. So that's that program. And then on top of that, they listen to our phone calls and to apparently and could possibly can spy on us in our homes or wherever we're at with all the cameras around the world now and satellites. So we are, as I stated in Fight Back Legal Abuse that was published in 2010, it felt as if back then, at least to me, and I wrote it in the book, that there was this unseen veil or net around and that we were slowly being strangled. And I believe that we are there now, and it's getting very close to the point where Americans need to pay attention to our humanity and our survival and our survival of freedom, liberty, and rights. And so that is version 2 of that book is coming out in 2023. And then there's Obamasaurus, which is political satire. If you like political satire, that is a message for the world. And then there's Dressing Up and Dressing Down. And that is about a blast from the past to the present and how they've wiped out dress codes, obviously, because nude people are walking around and sitting next to us in airplanes and so forth, and marching down our streets and without any clothes, which is very disturbing to me because that used to be called indecent exposure, and it was against the law, but apparently it's not any longer. And then it also challenges the minds of Americans' fashion world because it challenges their ability to create the designs that maybe they planned for the next season because of globalism, outsourcing, and the lockdowns. And these are all causing huge challenges for the American world of fashion and probably over in Milan, Paris, and the UK as well. So you may want to check out Dressing Up and Dressing Down as well. And on that note, we're going to enter into the world of authors and experts. And I'm going to say hello to the very dynamic Joyce Alexander Black, M.A. Hi, Joyce. How are you doing today?
Hi, Rose. Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great because I think, Joyce, that we're very fortunate to be here today and hopefully for a while to continue to share information we believe is important to put people back into a positive frame of mind and give them hope and even suggestions and ideas of how to do that, even if it's a smile, with somebody, with a stranger, and to help them smile, or handing out something to a hungry person, a snack or a few dollars or whatever. But I think it's so important because I know you and I are both on that same track of putting more positivity into the universe and positive thoughts, and bringing, which will negate a lot of the negativity that we are being bombarded with in every which way. So first of all, Joyce, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about your background?
Okay, well, thank you. And I just wanted to say, I really love what you're doing. I love what you're saying, and I love how your intention is so positive to help the world. And I really, admire what you're doing because it's really fantastic. So thank you for being you in the world.
Oh, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it solely. And everyone, I'm not the only person out there who cares, because I know you care, and I know a lot of my guests care about what is happening in the world. And so I think now that we're seeing so much of anti-Americanism, that it's really waking up a lot of people. But in the meantime, Joyce, go ahead and tell us about your wonderful background.
Okay, thank you. So I have a master's degree in clinical psychology. I am a hypnotherapist, life coach. I've done work with bereavement. I've done work with stress management. I have recordings on iTunes, and I'm about to get them on Spotify and some other places. But for right now, they're on iTunes. And I'm working on finishing this amazing book for couples. And in the meantime, I was thinking all about what is something simple and small. Because what happens is we're so bombarded by so much out there, so much on the internet, so much everywhere. And simple. I love being an American. I think it is like the most important thing for me as a human being of where I come from. And what it's like to be an American today with everything going on, it's very stressful. And as I've done travels in the world, and I've noticed certain things about how people deal with stress, what keeps on coming up is, how do people manage before they go to sleep? And if anything, what I'd like to share about sleep and managing stress is that before you go to sleep, make it like a positive experience. It's so many people are watching the news or talking to their friend or just finish an argument with their spouse, and then they go to bed to go to sleep. Well, that's not honoring their nervous system. That's not a positive experience. And if you take, let's say, an hour before you go to sleep, and it's more like, almost like romanticizing yourself and saying, okay, I'm about to go to sleep in an hour. So one of the things is the lighting. If we could just turn the lights down 50%. Let's say half an hour before you go to sleep, take it down to 75. So you're at very dim light. So your brain and body are saying, okay, it's time for sleep. And if we can just think about things like, if you're going to watch a TV show, could you do that an hour before? Maybe the hour, and maybe an hour's too much, maybe half an hour to start. But half an hour before, or an hour, whichever you can do, put on something soft like Enya, Kenny G, anything, no words, but just beautiful music. Classical could sometimes have very loud sounds in it, but something very spiritual and calming. I don't suggest candles because candles could cause fires, but they have candles that are not fire, that's actually a battery operated. Those are fine. I actually am one of those people who didn't know when I could put a pillow on fire once. I was like, So definitely no, best not to have real candles in the bedroom. Thank God everything was fine. But, but it's like, if we could do simple, like the world is so fast, it's so much stress. And if we could just go to simple and think, okay, let's just say for my stress management for today or for this week, I'm going to take on really managing my sleep. An hour before I go to sleep, I'm going to make it like a beautiful experience for myself. What would I like? I mean, one of the things that I think is huge in my life is I take a shower before I go to sleep. Now, that doesn't mean, right before. Maybe it's an hour before I go to sleep. And I do something that a lot of people have, let's say, a challenge with. I notice more in LA is I take a cold shower. And it's interesting because it's so warm in LA, but in other places, it's not as challenging. But what happens is if you take, let's say, the hand bar and you put the ice cold water on your feet and you start breathing with it. So it's not like your whole body is being drenched with cold water. And you could do a hot shower first if you like. And it's something you build up to. When you put that cold water on your face and the cold water on your neck, you start to feel good. And then here's my little LA niche, and that is it actually has been proven that ice water can prevent wrinkles. Then when I said that, everybody wants to do it. For health, forget it. Prevent wrinkles, okay. It reminds me of when my mom was, many years ago, my mom was telling me about how all these women used to smoke, and when they found out that smoking causes wrinkles around their mouth, well, then they gave up smoking. I mean, forget that.
Wrinkles will do it, that's for sure.
It's like wrinkles win. I'm over everything.
Believe me, I have put so many different masks and homemade remedies. Being a licensed esthetician for years, I have tried so many things. I'll try anything. Trust me. Ice. I've tried the ice too.
It is.
I don't know. Maybe it's psychological because even if it's not really working, psychologically, it's when you finish your treatment, your skin, seems like your skin always looks better than it did before you did the treatment. So, even if it's psychological, that's a good thing, right?
100%. But there's something really important about remembering self. Remembering I'm a human being, and for whatever reasons, we do need to sleep a lot of our day. And if we don't put that time in, we cause extra stress, weight gain. That's another reason why people like to sleep, is it helps reduce weight. There's a lot of things that happened, and it's processing what happened in the day. And sometimes you, knowing or unknowing, get answers just by sleeping. So before you get to that place, which is such a beautiful space to be in, why not think, well, how can I enhance my sleep? What's something simple I can do? Like if you're watching one of those, I'm not going to mention any names, but one of those police shows, lots of guns, lots of violence, lots of screaming, maybe even cursing. Is that really something that's conducive? I'm not making any judgment. If you like to watch it, watch it. It's cool. But maybe not the hour before you go to sleep. Maybe 3 hours. Maybe just look at when I go to sleep, how do I get myself ready? Because so many people said to me, well, I can't get to sleep earlier. And I say, why not? Oh, well, my brain won't go off. I have to watch all these TV shows. I said, no, there was a time people slept when no TVs were invented, It's like, that's not true. But you think it is. Okay, I get that. But what would happen if you just, I don't know, what would make you calm and happy? And some people will say, if I read a romance novel, Okay, well, why not do that? Or listen to some soft music, or just meditate, do yoga, the things that really kind of connect you to yourself. And then you go to sleep. And I do recommend that people take showers. There's something to me I learned many years ago, that when you end your day, all that stuff that you've been putting in your brain or listening to or being around, if you take a shower, you like wash it away. And then if you end with a cold shower, even if it's 10 seconds, there's something really great about it. I mean, try it for a week. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. But I guarantee you, there's something cathartic that will happen. Everyone that I know has experienced it if they just allow themselves. I mean, I'm from LA, and people have asked me if I've gone swimming in the ocean, and yeah, when I was a kid, because it's too cold. It's like even in the summer, but now I can because of the cold showers. I also don't get sick like I used to get sick all the time. Don't get sick. It helps build immune. There's so many things that it does that really helps a person. So I'm not saying I never get sick, but very minimal compared to what I used to do. I used to pick up every cold. And certain things that other people would say, oh, it's too cold, I'll be able to go like outside when it's a little bit colder than someone else. And I'm just saying that there's lots of simple little things that we could do that doesn't cost any money, that just is being mindful and calming, and it's putting your mind over life situation and kind of saying to myself, if I want to go to sleep at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, then an hour before, like Deepak Chopra said, it's important to go to sleep at 10 o'clock. And I'm not sure that everyone can do that. I understand his reasoning, and there's really not a lot of things people do except watch TV. My cousin's funny. She calls it the idiot box. The longer you stand in front of it, the more of an idiot you become. Some truth to that.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's some truth to that, and it's like, it's honoring your body, it's honoring your mind and saying, I deserve to end my day before I sleep. Like there's a time before I sleep that just needs to be calm, needs to be about.
Well, yeah, I agree with all that. And, there was an author that I had on the show. Her name was T.S. Wiley, and she wrote a book with Bent Fromby, PhD. It's called Lights Out. And it's a really good book because it goes along with exactly what you're saying through their research. And it also says, that it not only helps us sleep so we're not tired the next day, because we can't think correctly if we're tired, or we could end up grumpy and, and say things we shouldn't say or do things we shouldn't do because we're tired. And kids are the same way. And so, she also mentions that it's not only obesity that getting good sleep helps, is also diabetes and heart disease, cancer, and depression. Yeah. And like you said, struggling with weight loss and battling diseases. And she says that they're actually sick just because they're tired.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
A lot of people are sleep deprived, and then what happens is they go in the world and they go, and let's say they go to Ralph's, or they go somewhere where they're meeting someone at a grocery store or a bank, and then they're irritable and they have very little patience, and people will say, oh, they have stress or this and that, and some of it, that is true. But when you sleep, you have a good 8-hour sleep, your body, mind is more calm, and then you can do better. Like some people also exercise at night. If that's the only time, that's the only time, but it's not the best for sleep. It's better to put it in a morning routine, and then also watching like what you eat. If you're eating all these sugars and all these things that are not necessarily benefiting your health, then why do it? I mean, I understand, and I do like my sweets too, but how often? Like, is it right to eat a sweet every day? Some people think it's right to eat a sweet after every meal, including breakfast. So
I think, like in the, I think back in the day when more moms were at home, dessert always came with dinner, right?
Right.
Yeah. So,
yes.
I think that was like a habit, because we always had a dessert after dinner. And, it was a homemade dessert, though, so it didn't have all the preservatives and chemicals that they have today. So I think that adds to it as well, those preservatives and the fructose and the sugars and the preservatives and so forth, all these chemicals. Don't you think that also adds more to the lack of sleep? Because chemicals can actually cause you to be more awake, or, depending on your body, it can cause reactions in your body, correct? And your mind.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And you brought up a very interesting point. And like in the day when moms used to be home all the time and then they made desserts. But the difference is, like, you look at Marilyn Monroe, she was like a size 10 or 12. She wasn't a small woman, and she's the sexiest woman in the world. Well, how did she have a flat stomach at a time when there wasn't gyms and she was having normal food? And I really think about that because when I was studying art history, they were talking about, I forgot what time, years, but women who were very white and very overweight were considered beautiful because what it showed was they had had the money to eat, and they weren't, and also they're white because they didn't have to work in the fields, so they didn't have color. Now, then you go to the next time, and then women who are thin and they have color is considered beautiful because then they can afford to lay out in the sun or go to the tanning salon and go to a gym and diet and exercise. So it's pretty interesting how that happened, and and what happened from when mothers used to stay home, everything was organic. And now it's like so many women are starving themselves because they think it's okay not to eat as long as they don't gain weight. And then they're not sleeping that much, and the energy is very, very low. And it's important to eat right, sleep right, take care of your body, exercise, but it's trying to find that rhythm that is going to take you like at the end of the day. Like, how do you create a restful environment? It's being mindful in the morning when you wake up. What is my job? What am I doing today? Am I going to the gym before work? Am I not? What is my, maybe the day before, think about your food. What am I having tomorrow for breakfast and lunch and dinner? So it's organized before you wake up, and then you know your plan, you know your food plan, and you know your sleep plan. So it's not to be like OCD, so organized, but organized enough to where you get to be in control of your happiness.
I think that comes along with being disciplined and learning, which most of us have to do, learn to be disciplined if, we want to lose weight. I don't think it's so much denying ourselves, but choosing the right foods for our bodies, and then being disciplined enough to do it and follow through until you get used to that particular habit and you start seeing results and you start looking better and your skin starts looking better along with the sleep. And I don't think people realize how important, at least I didn't until I read this book, it is to get a good night's sleep. And also not to go to sleep angry or angry at your kids or your husband or whoever. Because what if you don't wake up in the morning, or what if they don't wake up in the morning? I mean, God forbid, but it happens. And what if you go off to work upset and you didn't get a good night's sleep because you're thinking about subconsciously that you're not happy with whatever happened, before you fell asleep with certain people that you care about and you love. I think that's important as well. What do you think?
100%. It's like what you're saying about how important it is. Sometimes there is something to be also said that if you're angry and then you talk to the person, your spouse, your child, when you're angry, it won't be a good way to communicate. You will cause an argument because you're angry. So the idea is, how do you get your anger out? And one of the ways that I recommend is just writing. Write 3 to 5 pages. Just use curse words, whatever you want. Write it up, tear it up, throw it away, make sure no one else sees it, shred it, whatever. But get it out. Then keep on writing until you're no longer angry. Then until you can start seeing, well, what could the other person think? Why did they do this? Why didn't they do this? Whatever it was. And then when you're no longer charged, it's a good time to talk. But if they talk when they're upset, there will be an argument. So it's creating that calm. And that's like why sometimes people forget there's ways to do that. Like my stress management recording, the last track is hypnosis, guided imagery, and it just helps you think about, well, what is it I'm feeling and how do I let it go? And if you listen to it for 28 nights consecutively, you will have less stress because it helps you can listen to it while you're sleeping. People say, oh, I don't have time. Right. Everyone says that. But you can put it on, push play, go to sleep, and your mind will let things go. And the idea is to just say to yourself, yeah?
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll tell you later. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the idea is to say to yourself, I am allowed to feel angry at my child, at my husband, at whoever. How I express it is not okay if I'm in anger. So if I can't get to that place before tomorrow, then maybe I write a letter to say to this person, I love you. I'm angry. I don't want to talk to you because I don't want to hurt you and I don't want you to hurt me. Let's talk tomorrow when we've had a good night's sleep and we're able to communicate. I don't suggest that. I suggest that you deal with the anger and you're able to communicate and be loving to each other during the day, not to have, go to sleep upset with each other. But if that's not an option and you talk before you can express kindly, that's not a good idea. Then it's better to just say, I love you.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point, though, about writing down what you're angry about when instead of just spurting it out, because it reminded me of the time that I learned that because I wrote an angry letter to someone and then I mailed it. And then the next day I was sorry I mailed it when I reread it because I kept a copy. And so then I had to apologize. And that shock of them getting that letter, probably didn't set well. So I learned that, but and you have to do it with the computer now because lots of people are angry and they send out these posts all over the world, and then they get into some kind of trouble with the law or with the person there or group or whatever because they have no tone on there, and maybe it wasn't really an angry post, but it appears angry to a lot of people or to one person or whatever, or an organization. So you have to be really careful about sending it out on the internet let alone dropping it in the mail first. And because you may be sorry, after you've done that, after you push send. And so the other thing that you brought up, though, is I think, how sad it is that they are dumbing down the kids as far as writing goes in this country, because it's very important to know how to write and grammar and English so that everyone can communicate, read, and understand the same language, which is why English was the priority language in America. You go to the mall now, I don't know, about at least 50% of the people are speaking in different languages now. And I think that's so rude, in my opinion, because they came to America. They should learn to speak English and speak English in public, speak your language in your homes or wherever you want to speak it. But I think in public it's very important that everyone knows, that you're communicating and not plotting or planning something else. And or writing, in different languages that don't reflect English on the buildings and so forth. And so this is America. You came here to be American. So why don't you want to assimilate as an American, which is a requirement of being an American? But the other thing is that in the past, in the day, you wrote postcards to your friends and relatives, and you wrote letters, and you communicated that way, and everybody was so excited to get a letter or a card or a postcard because people expressed their communication and how they felt about certain things or their vacation or whatever and shared it through writing. So if the grid goes down and the computers all go down, which they predict will happen one day, what's going to happen to all these dumbed down people who went through the educational system and can't even put a sentence together or clearly write a sentence or whatever they want to communicate, or even how to communicate if they no longer are using their brain because they depend on the computer to write their letters for them. And so that was just a point that came across my mind while you were speaking about writing the letter and expressing your anger, then shredding it and tearing it up and throwing it away, which I think is a great idea and suggestion. But anyway, I know it was a little off point, but I do find that to be, a problem in America today with these computers where nobody's expected to think outside of the box or be creative, but just to depend on Mr. AI. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying about the letter because we've all done that. And there's also emails, it's like, don't be trigger happy. If you're angry, if you're in any way upset, then whatever you say will not come across well. And I remember one time I heard an interview with the Fonz, Henry Winkler, and someone said to him, you're married for eons. What's your secret to a good marriage? And he said, that's a very good question. My answer is that even if I say something from what I think is a good place, it doesn't make a difference. It's how does it land? And I use this all the time because I thought that was really well put. You can say something, but you don't know where it lands. And if it lands with somebody and it hurts them, that's when you say, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. How can I make it up? And then, tell me more about why that hurt you, and then try to be their friend. But what happens is and what you're saying about dumbing down, yeah, it's a problem because there's so many things out there, and people are putting stuff on the internet like nobody else is going to see, pictures of them in very uncomfortable situations, and they don't realize that later when they go for a job interview, this may be fun when you're young, and then when you go on a job interview, they're going to look on the internet and they're going to have copies of this and be able to see, oh, guess what? This person was like this when they were in their, younger age. And that might not be the kind of person they want to work at their company. There's also the fact that, computers may not be around. And also what happens with the AI, that's a whole other conversation. But I do think that it's all about making things simple. Like, it gets so complicated because there's so much constant, information being thrown at us. And I remember there was a time when people would go to work in the morning, come home, have dinner with their family around 6 o'clock. Well, 6 o'clock is not dinner time anymore. It's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. That's pretty late. I mean, if you want to get to sleep early, you want to eat early too. And all of these different things are all about how do you manage your day is how you manage your stress. If you don't have a way, then your stress will manage you, and you'll lose the control of your life. And then it's like anger. You can get angry. You get reactive. Why is that? You're not getting enough sleep. You're not being around enough positivity in your day. Like, what about creating something positive? Like, maybe you always wanted to be an artist or a singer. Why not give yourself 15 minutes a day to go paint or go sing? These are all ways to manage yourself. Like, this is your life. And people get in this robotic phase of I have to do this, I have to do this. But what about this one thing you really wanted to do? How do you ever get there? It's like writing a book. So many people, I meet people all the time, I want to write a book, I want to do this. As we know, writing a book as well as making recordings, it takes a very long time. And it's possible. Many people do it, but more people don't. And it's because you have to plan it. It has to be a priority. It's like what's your priority is what gets done. And it's also being mindful. And when you have kids and they're spending a lot of time on the computer, you may want to think about that. You may want to think about board games. You may want to think about other options that could be a benefit for you and your family. And just thinking about what kind of life do you have with people who get, let's say you go to a store, Ralph's or something else, and a bank, and someone's really irritable with you. Do you give it back to them? You say, well, that's rude. That's not acceptable. I hear that a lot. That's not acceptable to speak to me like that. Oh, great. You've just shown them that you've got anger too. Did you notice that? No, I didn't. I was just reacting to what they did. Oh, we're doing tit for tat. How about, are you okay? You sound a little bit upset. And I've seen people at waitresses who are kind of rude, and people who talk to them and say, are you okay? You sound a little bit upset. Oh, yeah, I just found out something really bad with my husband or my wife or this and that. I'm really sorry. And then all of a sudden they calm down. And they're like, I'm sorry. Let me serve you. What would you like? And it's just... Yes, and it's
another thing, though, I think that, enduring people to maybe laugh, and say something that, is friendly and funny, which is what we used at a restaurant with this waitress, and she was just, so stiff and not friendly at all, So we decided we were going to make her laugh, me and my two daughters, and we did. We made her laugh, and before we know it, she was laughing with us and joking with us and getting us the best service ever and getting her big tip, because she, I said, well, because the girls go, boy, she's really kind of rude. And I said, well, let's make her laugh. I said, let's let her know we're friendly people. And, that'll work too, laughter, if you can do that. But, Joyce, going back to sleep, in this book it says that the trouble began with the invention of the light bulb. When we don't sleep in sync with seasonal light exposure, we alter our biological rhythms that control hormones and neurotransmitters, determining appetite, fertility, mental and physical health. So by relying on artificial light to extend our days, we fool our bodies into living in a perpetual state of summer, anticipating the scarce food supply and forced inactivity of the coming winter, our bodies begin storing fat and slowing metabolism to sustain us through months of hibernation and hunger that never arrive. And so they're saying that living in the age of electricity is also changing our sleep habits and also affecting our bodies and our minds as well. So, and our health. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting about that is during the last month, I've been doing a lot of traveling, and in Norway, they only get right now, I think, 1 hour of night. In Sweden, I think it's 2 hours. Copenhagen, Denmark, I think it's maybe 2 hours. London, it's light till about 10, 11 o'clock at night. So people don't realize it's nighttime. I mean, that happened to me when I was in Sweden. I thought, oh, wow, it's like I'm really hungry. I wonder why. And I'm like, it's 10 o'clock at night. I didn't have dinner. How did that happen? Because you look up and it's like the sun's out. It's like very strange. But the thing is that, and then in the winter, which like I can't even imagine, maybe one day I'll go, but it's the opposite. So you have 1 hour of sunshine and then 23 hours of night. And and when I've talked to people while I was traveling, I'm like, how do you manage that? It's like really hard. But the only thing is you think, oh, how great summer is. You'll have all this sunlight the whole time. And it's like you learn how to manage whatever you manage in life. It's like this, it's like things happen. And yes, the light in that we have no longer teaches us that we need to sleep and all these things. And I think it's important just to be mindful of it. It's like, if I want a productive life, what would I need? I would need sleep. I would need exercise. I definitely need stress management. Well, the first thing with my stress management is learning how to manage your anger. Because if you don't manage your anger will manage you. It's your choice to be on top of it, or it gets on top of you. And you think, and it's very clever. It's like, no, it's their fault. I mean, this is what I do with couples all the time. It's like, oh no, it's all their fault. They're the terrible one. They did all this. Then you talk to the other one. No, they're the horrible one. They did all this. And when you actually can say, what is it that you think the other one is upset with you about? Could you imagine from their perspective? You start opening the onion. When you start saying, like, can you imagine if you were that person, how you would feel if that happened or didn't happen? And they usually like, oh, no, I don't want to talk about it. Let's think about that. And then you get them to start thinking about the other person and start really reconnecting. And there's many different ways to do this, but I'm really a strong advocate in, if a person doesn't manage their stress, they won't get enough sleep. They may get exercise, depends on their opinion about that. Probably not eating the best and healthiest foods. And they're probably going to walk in the world and be very irritable. And they're going to meet people and pick on them, or the waitress, or they won't say to them, let's smile, let's make a joke, let's make them happy. They'll be like, well, I'm the paying customer. You should be kind to me. Like, I don't need to do this for you. And I'm thinking, we're human beings. We're just different jobs. We're all human beings, no better, no worse. Like, that doesn't work. That's not the way that, I believe that the Creator made us. We're all equal. And it's a way of just kind of remembering that human dignity again. How do we bring that to every moment?
You said something important. You said we're all equal. We are supposed to be all equal, but it depends. It's impossible to be all equal because our mindsets and our lives and the way people are treated and how they see how they're being treated, or their financial or their marriage, everything plays a part in how we react to what's going on around us, the people around us, the environment, the politics, how we see our government. And so even though God intended for us to be, and the framers, to be all equal, we are not equal because we don't have the same mindset. And even though in worlds of communism, in countries where there's communism, and they all appear to be equally thinking the same thing, no freedom, no rights, no free speech, no freedom to travel without the government permission, or working somewhere without the government's permission, or traveling without, under their new Merit app, which is what they're trying to force on America today, calling it the ID 2021 vaccine passport or whatever. It's the same thing. It is the Merit app by the CCP. And so that is the way they control every individual. So that's the problem, in my opinion, is that maybe God intended us to be all equal, but we always have the tyrants, don't we, and the unhappy people who are going to take their pain and suffering out on everyone else, as we're seeing more and more of that in our country today with the open borders and the economy skyrocketing, so that the housing and the food and the electricity and the water and everything is like becoming unaffordable for a lot of people. And it appears that the middle class is being wiped out under these agendas that are occurring and reoccurring. So I don't see, that I like the term, we're all equal. But in reality, in my book, Fight Back Legal Abuse, I stated we are not all treated equally. What do you think about that?
I love that, because that 100%, we're all equal. However, not everyone got that memo. So, the point is that until you get that consciousness,
they're getting it now today.
Right. It's like you live a life and you're thinking, well, is this the right thing? Is this the right way of believing? And some people, in order to do what they've done and created the chaos that we are now experiencing and more to come, they can't think that way. They think of them as the elitist or whatever they do to be able to create this problem. But one of the things that is very interesting is if you look at or watch the movie Gandhi, in the most craziest thing, that there is this man who would not fight back, and they beat them and they did horrible things. And from that place, he created a massive change, massive political change, massive. And it's like Martin Luther King, it just takes one person. And we don't know what each person has to offer and how they do what they do and what's going to happen. But we do know that in this world, whatever the reason is, we're going to have to deal with how we're going to manage our anger. And how you manage your stress is, again, connected to your anger, again, connected to your sleep, again, connected to your exercise, your food. If you're in alignment with that, and no one can be perfect, but there's things we could do. People could take walks in the and see trees, go to the parks. I mean, I know people who every day they say they take off their shoes and they plant their feet on the grass and they connect themselves to Mother Earth and they remember, I'm just a little pea in this great big universe? What can I do that when I leave, this planet is better off? And I love that. And I think that there's something important about realizing if you're getting into arguments a lot, if you're irritable at work, if you're irritable with your spouse, if you're irritable in the supermarket, maybe it's not all them, and maybe it's something about you. Like, where am I? How am I managing my stress? How am I doing that right if this is what happens? If I'm creating this chaos in my life, I need to rethink about that. And I think it's very important to understand that there is a lot going on, and it's going to probably get worse before it gets better. And we have a lot of crazy politicians, and there's a lot of craziness in this world. I mean, I love that you're laughing because it's true. What if you don't laugh? I mean, you know, it's funny. Like, if you look at some of the movies, like even not that long ago, like Baywatch, right? Baywatch was before they had cell phones. So it's very interesting because people who didn't have this constant information, they had time. There was calm between when they left work and when they got home. There is none. It's like, okay, on my way home, I'll make all these calls. So then when I get home, I can have dinner, then blah, blah, blah. And when do they have this quiet time before they go to sleep? And it's important. And people who are married, it's important when you get home to have some quiet time. Decompress.
Yeah, I think what's happened, unfortunately, we're running out of time now, but I think what is happening is that people have become addicted to the looking down at their iPhones 24/7 instead of looking up at the skies, at the birds, at the bees, the butterflies, and the trees, and appreciating what God created. Well, others are trying to destroy everything God created, including humanity, it appears. And so I think people really are going to be taking a more serious look at that as we're going along here, and hopefully we'll listen to Joyce and Rose in Colombo Chronicles, and we're going to have you back because that's another topic we can touch on, Joyce. And right now, please tell our audience where they can find you on the internet.
Okay, thank you so much. I love to be back. JoyceAlexanderBlack.com. And if you go to iTunes and put in my name, Joyce Alexander Black, you'll see my 7 recordings there. And one's stress management for adults and one's for children with children, so it's really cool. And there's just like doing this work is amazing, and being aware that it takes one person to make a change because we don't want the world to go where they want it to go. And I love how you make yourself and your life about educating people. Thank you so much, Rose. You're amazing.
Thank you, Joyce, and God bless you, and keep up the good work, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. God bless you, too.
Obamasaurus, the new book by Rose M. Colombo, is an updated version of a political satire that reflects the political roadmap of today's world, written with an Orwellian twist. Will humanity survive or suffer depopulation or extinction? Obamasaurus by Rose M. Colombo, available at Amazon.com.
Yes, folks, and remember, injustices can happen to you and they can happen to me, but together we can make a positive difference. Remember, you are never alone when you tune in to Colombo Chronicles and the Justice Club.
The Justice Club is back on Colombo Chronicles live podcast. Join Rose Colombo at noon and find out what tips she will provide in a world of little justice.
Well, my friends, time flies. And now is the time to say goodbye. Thanks so much for being part of the Colombo Chronicles family. You are appreciated. Please do it now. Bookmark. Push that like, share, and follow button. Oh, and don't forget to comment below and stay in touch. Make your family part of the Colombo family. Until next Wednesday at noon, remember, God loves you, and so does the rose.